Hi guys and welcome back to my channel. The case that I'm going to be looking into today is the case of Ken McElroy. And let's just say that it's a case that to this day is still unsolved. Despite having been witnessed by 30 to 60 people. Yeah, we'll get into the details. Ken Rex McElroy was born on the 1st of July in 1934. He was child number 15 of 16, which, yeah, is a lot. Which meant he would often get just left to his own devices kind of thing. They all sort of were, and they would all have to stick together because, well, you can't really watch 16 children. It'd be very, very difficult. So, yeah. His family moved around a little bit and they eventually decided to Skidmore, which was a pretty small town, but there was a minimal sort of crime rate in, and that's where they ended up. Ken went to school until about the 8th grade, which is when he then decided that he wasn't going to go anymore and he dropped out. I did also read that he had this injury that happened to him. A piece of sheet metal fell on him or something, and it like left him in severe pain after that too, because of I guess how severe his injuries were from it. Now, Ken, when he reached adulthood, was a big, burly, scary guy. He was very, very tall. He weighed 270 pounds. And as he got older, he realized that he was very intimidating. He wanted people to be scared of him, and he was successful in that, let me tell you. So he got in trouble with the law quite a lot. He had relations with young kids. It's at this point, let's just call it as it is. So he actually married, he had a wife, but then he started a relationship with a young girl who was 12 at the time that he was, you know what? And this girl was called Trina McLeod. Like I said, she wasn't the one that he was married to, but, you know, at 14, she ended up pregnant with their first child together. Trina actually ran away at one point as well, but her parents just kind of didn't really give up much of a fight because they were also terrified of Ken as well. And at this point that he was getting with Trina, he was actually something like the 20 years a senior or something like that. She was about 12-ish and he was like 34-ish. Yeah, what a gross, disgusting man. But again, people were terrified of him. And he had trouble with the law, so you'll find out more about that. But I mean, he was done for, well, not done. This is the problem. He wasn't done, but he was known to be, what's the word? Intimidate witnesses. That's what I was looking for. He would intimidate witnesses to his crimes. He would be done for stealing, damage of property, assault, all of these things. He ended up with like 21 charges against him total. But none of them ever stuck because Ken had a fantastic lawyer. Yeah. So with regards to like intimidating the witnesses, if somebody was going against him against a crime or whatever, he'd stand outside their house with a gun and just shoot off rounds every now and again into the night as well, so that they still knew that he was there. He would just chill outside, and he would do it for months and months and months, and just they were just terrified that he was going to do something to them. He would make his money in many different ways, but it enabled him to get this really good lawyer who was Richard Gene McFadden, and apparently it was alleged that he worked for the mob and things like that. Alleged, let me just say. And he was the one who managed to get him off of all of these charges all the time. So let's go back to sort of his relationship with Trina. When Trina reached the age of 16, he was worried that he would get sort of a rape charge, so he decided that he was going to marry Trina. So marrying a child that you have essayed apparently it did then, negated charges. I don't really know. I don't get it, but whatever. And to try and sort of bolster the family into doing it, bully them into allowing him to marry their daughter, that he just like allegedly went round to the house, damaged the property, killed the dog, set it on fire, burnt everything to the ground. Yeah, what a catch. Surprised she wasn't running down the aisle with him. Eventually, they gave in, and he married Trina. And I believe he divorced his other wife too. I'm not sure what her name was. So yeah, he did move. She did live with him and his wife as well at some points, which is just weird. But he figured that if he was married, his wife couldn't testify against him. So he dropped Alice. She was called, sorry, Alice. He dropped Alice, got rid of her, divorced her, and then was married to Trenna then. Trenna then stated that the house didn't actually. When I said he burnt down the house didn't burn down because of Ken. It was faulty wiring. So clearly she's already, like, sticking up for him and trying to hide what he's doing, sort of thing. On the 2nd of July 1976, a farmer, Romaine Henry, claimed that Ken actually shot him in the face, point blank, with a shotgun after he told him to get off his property. That's his response to it. It was like, no, bang. So, you're thinking that he's definitely going to get done for this, right? He was arrested, don't get me wrong. And Henry actually survived. Like, amazingly, he survived a shot to the face, which is crazy. But yeah, Ken goes to jail for 24 hours. He's out before the guy is even remotely near to coming out of hospital yet. Honestly, he's just walking the streets again, going to his favourite bar again. And then comes the intimidation again. He doesn't want the trial to go ahead. He doesn't want to go in jail, so he starts intimidating him. He's outside his house at all hours. Like I said before, he's sending shots off during the night. He's just out there in his car, just trying to scare him. And then when the trial actually happened, 2 guys came forward and said that Ken was actually with them all night. That was all the proof they needed, apparently, back then, because it was 3 against 1, and he got away with that too. So he got away with almost murdering someone, no problems. This went on for 20 years. I'm not even joking. 20 years of being under Ken's thumb. The whole town. Everyone in that town. The sheriffs. Everyone. I even heard that the town people were so, like, distraught and worried and just didn't know what to do about him. Like, he could get away with anything. He genuinely could. That they was like, what can we do about him? And basically, the police said, if you end up shooting him, just give us a call and we'll remove the body before it starts to stink. That was their answer. It wasn't like, we're going to come and arrest him and stop him from doing the illegal thing or the bad thing that he's doing. It was, if you kill him, we'll take him away. Just, that's how terrified everyone was of him. Even read as well that one, like, sheriff or somebody ended up actually just quitting the next day after being confronted by him. They were like, nah, I'm not dealing with this. I'm gone. Because everyone was just terrified of him. Now we're going to go to the 25th of April in 1980. One of Ken's children Ken and Trenna, they'd actually gone into the shop and they stole a piece of candy. Now, the shopkeeper, well, it was owned by a guy called Ernest Bonekamp and his wife, Lois. And Ernest was 70 years old. So the kid goes in the shop, steals this candy, and they catch her. They tell her off, don't steal, it's wrong. Leave her with the candy. They let her have their candy. They're not bothered about that. They just want to... Kids do silly things sometimes, so they just want to tell her that it's a wrong thing to do, but obviously just be on your way, and that's the end of it. But it wasn't, because that was Ken's daughter. So yeah. Trenna goes in the shop a bit later on, fuming. She's going on about how her daughter isn't a thief. How dare you accuse her of stealing? And then she's like, you're going to meet Ken McElroy. And everyone knows, obviously, how scary this guy is. So nobody wants to do that. And he comes in and he doesn't really say very much. Trenna's still going off on one. He does come in. He just kind of stands there. But it's the actions after he starts again with his stalking. He's following him home. He's waiting outside. He's firing his gun off. He's really angry at them accusing his daughter of stealing. And he also began showing up at the shop a lot and things like that. Just really stalker, scary behaviour from him. Ernest was in the shop one day doing a stock check when Ken turned up with his shotgun. He ended up shooting Ernest, I believe, in the neck or something similar. And Ernest was very lucky to survive. Again, Ken went on trial for this. It got reduced. He basically ended up with pretty much nothing at all because his lawyer was just too crazy amazing. Moral of the story? Get a good lawyer. No, I'm only joking. Do not do the crime in the first place, eh? As you can imagine, the townspeople were at the wit's end. They didn't know what to do. And so they're like going to the sheriff and saying, what can we do about Ken? He's terrorizing everyone. He's untouchable. And the sheriff actually suggests creating a neighborhood watch, which is what they decide to do. Nobody knows properly what happened at this meeting, but it just goes to show like how much fear and power he had over all of these poor people. As soon as the meeting finished, the sheriff drove on out of town and left, and Trenna and Ken went to their favourite bar, and the bar was called D&G. Now, I can't say for sure what happened in this meeting, but let me just tell you, between 30, 60-ish villagers all decided to go to this bar with their guns. Not a good sign. They told Ken to get out and leave. He did with Trenna. They both jumped in the car, and then there was people everywhere. He was like surrounded. Stuff started going down. They grabbed Trenna because, I mean, apart from being with this horrible man, which wasn't even her choice in the first place, she had done nothing. So they grabbed her, rushed her out to safety, and ushered her somewhere else, whilst they all surrounded the car and began shooting at it, with Ken inside. Once Ken was dead, the only sounds that were left were his truck noises, because he was dead in the car and his foot was still on the the pedal, so it was still accelerating or something along the lines of that. It was making noises anyway, which must be accelerating because otherwise it wouldn't make any noises. But everyone else just left. They literally shot a man and then they left. They didn't call the police, they just left. And then later on, when the police came, they found Ken's body. The motor was still running and his foot was still on that pedal, because that's just how he was left. Despite there being many shots fired at him, only 2 actually hit him, but they did kill him. And the rifle that actually killed him was like a .22 caliber. And that gun would never be found again, ever. Trenna was the only witness to it all. She actually claimed that it was a man called Del Clement who actually did the firing, the killing shot. But everyone else said they didn't see who did it. Loads of people were there and nobody singled him out. Everyone was just like, I don't know. And because there wasn't enough evidence, this gun was never found. The witnesses were all hush-hush. They couldn't ever charge him for it, so who knows whether he was actually the one that did the shooting or not. So because of that, no one was ever charged in the murder of Ken McElroy. No one has ever said anything as to who did this apart from Trenna. But the entire village did want him gone. So, yeah. Trenna actually went ahead and filed for a $5 million wrongful death suit against the town of Skidmore, but she ended up settling out of court for like 17 grand. Yeah, it's a bit of a difference. Because no one was admitting guilt and they just wanted to avoid all of the massive legal fees, so she settled at that. Trenna moved away. I don't blame her. Lived her life in a different town, you know. I believe she passed away around the age of 50, sadly. But yeah, the story of Ken McElroy and the town of Skidmore and what happened to him and what he did to the town and what the town resultantly did to him is a story of the ages. Like, it's probably never going to get solved after all this time unless there's going to be a deathbed confession or somebody's told a family member who did it or whatever. It's very unlikely to ever get solved. But I want to know your opinions on it, okay? This guy was bad to the bone. He would do anything. Like, with sheriffs and law enforcement, and he would pull guns on them, and he just did not care. Nobody could ever get him done. Nobody, it was tried. They tried. And he was just running around, like, shooting people and stuff. What are your opinions on how this case went down? Obviously, I never condone violence and murder and things like that, and I'm not going to now. But I'm just intrigued to know what your thoughts are on it. Like vigilante justice, I think they call it. So yeah, let me know your opinions on it, but that is the end of this case. It's a wacky one, to say the least. Literally, a guy got gunned down with 60 witnesses and not one came forward to say anything, and it's still a mystery who did it. Yeah. But that is the end of this case. Thank you so much for watching. That's all I have on the case of Ken McElroy. And yeah, until next time, bye.